In today's video, I discuss why some vegans should avoid probiotics in 2020. Roll the titles.
For the record, I'm done trying to make y'all comfortable. For the record, you ain't trying to grow, then it's done for you.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Before I jump into the video, just a quick reminder that I'm now offering the SIBO, organic acid, stool tests and consult via my website. So if you have any health or digestive problems, then consider taking these tests, as they will provide a lot of very detailed information upon which you can start making informed decisions and then start getting your health back on track. And on that bombshell, to the video. So as you all know, my preference on probiotics has always been that fermented foods are better than probiotics, as you often can't get the bacteria from the probiotics to the colon where they are needed, as your stomach acid will usually wipe out a high proportion of these. However, that being said, we are currently seeing a trend in 2020 where probiotic manufacturers are increasing their doses to overcome the stomach acid issues, so I want to make this dedicated video on probiotics. Nothing has changed for me. I will always recommend fermented foods over probiotics, but if you are someone who is going to take probiotics no matter what, then you will want to consider some of the points laid out in this video. So the purpose of a probiotic is to create an equilibrium in the gut. So probiotics are essentially good bacteria. So if you break down the word probiotic, you have the prefix pro, meaning good, and biotic, meaning bacteria. And then you have dysbiosis, which probiotics are trying to resolve. Dys meaning bad, and biosis just simply means a disproportionate amount of bad bacteria in the gut. So in the gut you have good bacteria, viruses, yeasts and molds, etc., which form part of a healthy digestive tract, and you also have bad bacteria, viruses, yeasts and molds that can cause a lot of different problems. So the trick here is to keep everything in balance. Now in a healthy gut, if there is such a thing today, then you want a good to bad bacteria ratio of something like 80-20 or 90-10. Now this is super important in the context of probiotics, which this video is about. The last thing that you want to do when you have dysbiosis in the gut is throw in a lot of probiotics or even beneficial bacteria from fermented foods. Because when you do this, all of those symptoms associated with dysbiosis, so gas, bloating and cramping, etc., will get much worse in many occasions. So the simplest analogy to explain this is to think about your garden at home. If you have a garden full of weeds, then the last thing that you would want to do is to start throwing down plant seeds. You would want to clear out the weeds first, and the gut is no different to this. You want to remove the dysbiosis in the gut using different strategies depending on what the problem is, and then when you throw down the seeds or probiotics, you will usually do this in conjunction with some form of fertilizer, so resistant starch and pre and probiotic rich foods. Now a lot of people that I speak to on a weekly basis, when they have digestive issues, they will go to Google and Google will tell them to take probiotics. So they then try to take high doses of things like lactobacillus and bifidobacterium. And I'm sure if you are watching this and you have had gut issues and you load up on certain probiotics, it causes a worsening of symptoms and you can get things like increased gas and bloating, as well as lots of histamine release. So you have the bad bacteria and then you throw in the good bacteria, and it often causes the release of CO2, histamine and other gases that will send your digestive issues in the opposite direction that you want them to be heading in. So as I said just now, if you have gut issues and dysbiosis, you will want to get in there and weed out the bad stuff so that you can load up with the good stuff without the release of things like CO2 or histamine, for example. So if you are someone that has gut issues and you get substantial reactions from either probiotics or fermented foods, then don't put your head in the sand and continue to do something that is causing you problems, as you could be creating larger issues further down the line. Now that you know this, you might be saying, well, how do I assess the dysbiosis in the gut so that I know what type of probiotics to take? So quite simply, the best way to assess dysbiosis in the gut is to use tests like DNA sequences of your microbiome, or things like comprehensive stool tests that look for specific pathogenic bacteria or certain parasites, for example. Before you look at these types of tests, you can also do some quick tests at home to assess your level of dysbiosis. So you can take probiotics for 5 to 7 days to see if you get a significant worsening of symptoms, at which stage you should discontinue them. But you could also use resistant starch to assess the state of play. Here you could take some potato flour or unripened banana flour for 5 to 7 days and watch what happens to all of your digestive issues. So do you get more gassy and bloated, or do you get a worsening of brain fog, for example? When you take resistant starch or probiotics to assess whether you have a decent level of dysbiosis, not only do you want to look out for your digestive responses, but you also want to keep an eye on your skin. Often your skin health and complexion will mirror your gut health. So if you have gut issues such as cramping and gas and bloating, and you take probiotics or resistant starch and you get breakouts or a worsening of things like seb dermatitis or rosacea, then you will want to look into this in much more detail. The other thing that you need to keep in the back of your mind when you are trying to assess dysbiosis in the gut is whether you have dysbiosis in conjunction with some type of infection. So for example, if you have small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, which simply means that you have too much bacteria in the small intestines, and then you throw additional bacteria into the gut in the form of probiotics, then clearly you may experience a worsening of symptoms. So when you are working with a practitioner and you do something like a comprehensive stool test, have a look at your secretory IgA number, which is your gut immune system or your gut's first line of defense. If that number is elevated, then it may be a strong indication, as well as dealing with dysbiosis, you are also dealing with some type of infection. So the thing for you to remember is that dysbiosis and infections will weaken your gut immune system, which can then create further dysbiosis, and in some people it can create malabsorption issues, as well as impacting on your stomach acidity levels. So as you can see, with all of these types of problems going on, probiotics will unlikely fix the issues and will often make things much worse. So strip out the infections and dysbiosis and go from there. So if you are having gut issues and you are having problems with probiotics and resistant starch, you are breaking out, having gas and bloating, then work with your practitioner, do the necessary testing to see what is causing your issues before jumping into a specific antimicrobial or antibiotic protocol. Some of the best studied antimicrobials are things like Metagenics, Candibactin AR and BR, grapefruit seed extract, allicin, Alimed or Alimax, and also things like berberine. But please, please, please don't start throwing these down your neck unless you know what you are doing, as they are likely to make things much worse. So look at testing, remove the problems from the gut, do the weeding, and then start replenishing the gut with the right type of bacteria and fertilizers, depending on the issues identified. And if you want me to do a specific gut video where I show you someone's dysbiosis in the gut and then the steps that were taken, then let me know in the comments below. So that's the end of today's video. I hope you all enjoyed, and as always, remember to look after your body because it's the only place you have to live. And I'll see you next time.